y'all, it is your favorite nerdy girl here, Nerdy Girl Reviews, and we are back. Yes. I thought I'd show off my embellishments, my beautiful pearl earrings. These used to be my mother's. I love them. And then this Coco Chanel inspired sweater. Yes, I'm definitely feeling my Caroline Bessette oats. You know how I love to do my drag. So we are reviewing the last 2 episodes released from Lovestory, the John F. Kennedy Jr. Love story with Carolyn Bessette. I will say that, I know they're taking a lot of creative license for the telling of this story. I think they did their own research, don't get me wrong. They probably did a lot of book reading to fill in these episodes. Although I'm hearing that the Kennedy clan is not all too enthused and they don't. But this happened also during the filming, I believe, of one of his monster series with Jeffrey Dahmer. They didn't consult like the families of the victims, and so they felt that, they could have included their input. So we are seeing again some romanticized version of their relationship. I'm not saying that they weren't madly in love with each other, but I don't believe it was that sugary sweet. And something like about those things kind of rubbed me the wrong way, because is it that person that you're really watching? I like to credit myself as a music buff, and if you can't tell from my feed here, but the I want to say maybe after the 4th or 5th episode in recent, the first thing that popped into my head, and also the reviewers on YouTube have really gone to town with their critiques, but the first song that popped into my head was John Mayer's I Don't Trust Myself with Loving You. Read the lyrics to that song. Are you really in love with me? Or are you in love with the thought of me? That rings true. Because I will say it's very sugary sweet. They go through their ups and downs. They're genuinely falling for each other. There's courtship. There are moments where there's stolen moments where nobody knows just yet. Like I mentioned too. I mentioned in my last review, I actually saw those two in the park before it was even known publicly. Yeah, I think he was just dating her on the low, and then all of a sudden became a real thing. In the 4th episode, I think he wants to introduce her to his friends and, see if she passes the test. And there's a lot of heavy smoking. I get it. The 90s was something else. People were mostly on cigarettes and other things to keep thin. But yeah, she passes with flying colors, even if she's put in awkward situations. I'm sure she was. It's not easy dating, almost considered royalty for the American audience, right? I believe his mother compared the family to Camelot. So I'm sure she went through hurdles. But the way they make it is almost like something out of a fairy tale. And I've always said that, let's stay a little closer to the truth, please, because the way that I've heard it online, other critics on YouTube, that lady I mentioned that's on YouTube, she's a book author, former journalist, continues to be a journalist, I believe, on YouTube, and her show's called The Nerve. And she has a book called Ask Not, which documents what all the women went through romantically when it came to the Kennedy family men. And it was not sugary sweet. They make it seem, based on her own research, and make it seem that Caroline was indeed obsessed with him. In the show, I think in that 4th episode, somebody snuck a letter into his bag, kind of giving him a fair warning of who she was and how she lived her life and whatnot. And but the way they make it, at least in these other books, they really do highlight that that's who she was. I mean, she was in her 20s and 30s, early 30s, and living in New York and living a lifestyle, you know, what is it? What is it called? Manhattanite kind of lifestyle. So maybe she was doing that. I'm not saying it was a sin, but the way that they're making it seem is like that's not who she was. Like she was like almost like Snow White. And there's a mistake in doing that because like again, who are you? Who is the audience falling in love with? Are we falling in love with the actual people who are made of flesh and blood, or fantasy and sugar? Like, you know, they said that about when it came to Carolyn Bessette, that there is record that she was genuinely in love with him from afar, and that she would take newspaper clippings and envisioned herself perhaps even manifesting that she would become his wife one day, and aligning herself in that crowd so that she could be successful at that. And if that's what she did, that's what she did. But like, I hate when people are like, no. And the other thing I will critique, I do love the fashion. I do love her aesthetic. I don't think necessarily she like pegged that fashion either. It was the 90s. Everyone was going minimalist. It's not like she was like the start of that or groundbreaking. I'm sorry to any Bessette fans here who are watching me, but she was just doing the bare minimum. Honestly, it was just a designer jeans, plain t-shirt, and overcoat and loafers. Everybody was dressing like that. If you were a professional and working in maybe perhaps a casual setting, that's how you were going to dress. Or if you were going to go out to brunch and meet your friends, that's what you were going to dress like. I don't think that necessarily that she was the first or the last to have dressed that way. But anyway, my only other critique too is, what is with the walk? Like, again, I'm not trying to come down hard on the show, but what is with the walk? Nearly every walk, every scene that you see her in, it's like, is she walking down the runway? Does she really walk like that in real life? Did they tell this actress to painfully walk like this every time she exits a scene? Like, who sways like this? Again, I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer, but just really, try to, what's the word? Observe what you're watching, Anyway, beside that, the follow-up is when he introduces her to, I believe, his grandmother. I don't know if it's paternal or maternal, Ethel. And you had to call her Mrs. Kennedy, and you had to sit away from your partner because it would interrupt the flow, and there's awkward moments. And I think she's like being really like bombarded of what life would be if she really were to take him serious. And then he pops the question. I believe that that's true, the way he went about it too, and that it caught her off guard. Which then, like, because she's caught off guard, she doesn't know how to answer. She's still meeting with her ex. I will say too, before you take all of this in as a series, as Bible, do your own research. Again, I would suggest to either listen to excerpts or buy the book, Ask Not. And I believe, I don't know if this other tell-all is available, but the tell-all of Caroline's side squeeze, he was really hot, gorgeous, and I think she would unfortunately utilize him to get what she wanted from John F. Kennedy Jr. to make him jealous. Is the guy that she basically helped, yes, career-wise. He was a model, and then it led to acting. But there's a tell-all book where there's some no-nos there. Supposedly that she had been pregnant, maybe at the time that she had been proposed to, that she was still carrying on with a relationship with him. So there's a lot of complex things that could have led to their fight at Battery Park. And so it wasn't a simple A and B